Winning an Oscar is just about the highest honour that can be bestowed upon a filmmaker. However, like anything that's been around for almost 90 years, the Oscars have had their fair share of controversies and mishaps. That means regrets. And as filmmakers take time to ruminate on their past successes and failures, quite a few have come out and stated what they felt was wrong with their projects. It's an odd situation no matter how you spin it, with filmmakers regretting everything from specific sequences to behind-the-scenes drama, or even, in rare occasions, regret the fact that their film won where others should have. With all that in mind, I'm Will for WhatCulture.com, and this is 6 regrets filmmakers had over their Oscar-winning movies. But before we begin, don't forget to subscribe to stay notified. Ding, ding, dong. Number 6. Diablo Cody and Juno's pregnancy. When Diablo Cody won the Oscar for Best Original Screenplay for her work on Juno, it was considered something of a breakout success. The film, which starred Ellen Page and Michael Cera, was universally acclaimed and ended the year gracing most of 2007's critics' best of lists. But it wasn't without controversy. Given that the film deals with teenage pregnancy and the eponymous Juno's decision to give birth and not even consider an abortion, various pro-life groups in the US and elsewhere began to latch onto the movie as an ostensibly anti-choice film. However, the writer spoke out on this controversy that followed Juno's release and how perhaps the film could have been more explicit regarding Juno's motivations not to seek an abortion, stating that, "I don't feel I was clear enough in terms of why Juno chose not to have an abortion. It was simply because she did not want to. It was not about any type of feeling that abortion was wrong. I'm pro-choice. Abortion is undoubtedly a very sensitive subject, but in retrospect, Cody wishes she'd dealt with the subject rather than skirting around it." Number 5. Jonathan Demme wishes he'd explored Hannibal's childhood. The Silence of the Lambs is one of the best thrillers ever, and took home the Oscar for Best Director. The film itself went on to win Best Picture and Best Adapted Screenplay, with Anthony Hopkins also taking away an award for Best Actor. However, Demme wasn't satisfied with the finished product. While the director bemoaned the infamous dance sequence involving Buffalo Bill for obscuring the character's motivations, most interesting perhaps is his wish that the film had explored Hannibal Lecter's own traumatic childhood. Demme had wanted to illustrate that Hannibal, like Clarice, had experienced trauma at an early age. Though subsequent features starring Thomas Harris's famous serial killer would explore this element to the character, it would have been awesome to see what Demme would have come up with. But despite this, Silence of the Lambs still remains one of the finest thrillers of the 20th century. Number 4. Paul Haggis doesn't think Crash should have won Best Picture either. Crash is widely considered to be just about the worst film to win Best Picture, released during the year that saw both Brokeback Mountain and Munich receive praise right across the board. Many at the time felt as though Ang Lee's neo-western starring Jake Gyllenhaal and Heath Ledger deserved the lion's share of the evening's awards, but instead the evening's highest prize went to Crash, a film with all the subtlety of a steaming locomotive and none of the power to match. Haggis has actually admitted since that the film probably didn't deserve to win Best Picture, citing the aforementioned Brokeback Mountain and Munich as features superior to his own. Though Haggis maintains that the film's stereotypes were constructed as a means of addressing racial prejudice, many felt as though the film wasn't mature enough to juggle the themes it was trying to address. In any case, in a year that saw Brokeback Mountain, Munich, and even Walk the Line, Crash's Best Picture win stands out like a sore thumb. Number 3. Daniel Day-Lewis and The Phantom Thread. The Phantom Thread was one of 2017's best features, but it didn't experience the easiest of productions. Daniel Day-Lewis and Paul Thomas Anderson reportedly clashed over the final cut of the project, which even inspired Lewis's decision to retire from acting shortly after the film's release. Citing the decision to film entirely on location in a Georgian townhouse, Lewis took issue with the production schedule and how neither the cast nor the crew were afforded much privacy on set. While the actor later clarified that the struggles were worth it, one can only speculate as to how production influenced his later decision to retire. Lewis actually summed up his thoughts on the matter in an interview, stating, "Before making the film, I didn't know I was going to stop acting. I do know that Paul and I laughed a lot before we made the movie, and then we stopped laughing because we were both overwhelmed by a sense of sadness. That took us by surprise. We didn't realize what we had given birth to. it was hard to live with, and still is. The actor has of course threatened to retire in the past, but on this occasion it feels slightly more genuine. At the very least, he's left us all with a spectacular filmography. Number 2, David Ayer, Joker and the Suicide Squad. Yes, Suicide Squad is an Oscar-winning movie. The film didn't attain this honour through its writing, acting or directing though, but rather through its costume design, which, to be fair, was pretty great. In any case, while the film certainly looked good in certain respects, it failed in pretty much every way imaginable elsewhere. The plot was stilted, the acting wooden, and the whole thing an anticlimax. But it wasn't irredeemable, and with the Squad's Dirty Dozen style premise having paid dividends in the comics countless times before, a big screen adaptation shouldn't have been so difficult. In fact, when the film did release, many fans wondered why the film's director, David Ayer, didn't simply look to the animated Assault on Arkham film that was released just a few years earlier. That film made Joker the villain of the piece, and when a fan reached out to Ayer on Twitter asking why he didn't do the same, he admitted that it was his mistake not to do so. Doing the whole thing over again, Ayer would have used Joker as the main villain, which at the very least would have saved us that terrible witchy CGI. Number 1, Steven Spielberg and E.T.'s digital alterations. Steven Spielberg is one of the most treasured filmmakers working today, and E.T. is often considered to be one of his finest works. As with other seminal 80s classics, E.T. did, however, run into some controversy years after its original release. Like Star Wars, which Spielberg cites as a primary reason for his digital amendments to E.T., the director's family classic was re-released with digital alterations years later. In came a CGI puppet in certain sequences, and out went the guns on FBI agents. It was really odd, and it appears as though the director agrees. Speaking with Screen Rant, Spielberg remarked that a loud negative voice concerning the amendments erupted after their release. Spielberg went on to say that, "I learned a big lesson, and that's the last time I ever decided to mess with the past. What's done is done." So, at the very least, we'll never have to fear the retroactive insertion of CGI gophers into Raiders of the Lost Ark. And there you have it, folks, 6 regrets filmmakers had over their Oscar-winning movies. Don't forget to leave a comment down below, as well as like, share, subscribe, and visit whatculture.com for daily news and articles. This is Will for What Culture, and thanks for watching.